I'm trying to work towards financial independence, and in order to do so, I need to have a good understanding of what my net worth is. Otherwise, how am I ever going to know if I got there? As I've said before, I'm using this channel to track my journey to financial independence in 12 years' time. What I'm also hoping to do is inspire a few people to do the same sort of thing. And as this is the most transparent finance channel on YouTube, I'm going to tell you exactly what my net worth is and how to work out yours. I've got absolutely nothing to hide, and it's weird because in the UK, there's a bit of a thing about talking about money, and it's what I've loved about the finance community. Actually, there's so many more people happy to share where they're at, and that goes from people in tens of thousands of pounds worth of debt right the way up to people who have reached financial independence. The more people that can discuss it, the more people that can share it, the more people that are happy to have a conversation, the better, because it helps all of us. And as Damo himself puts it,
so off limits is the topic of money to us Brits that 1/3 of us even said in a recent study they don't feel comfortable talking about money with their own partners. So you'll happily reverse jackhammer them, but you won't tell them what the balance of your credit card is.
Nice one, Damo. So to calculate your net worth, it's very simple. It's your assets minus your liabilities. But what does that mean? Basically, it's all the stuff that's worth cash, add that up, and then add up all the stuff that is a debt to you and take one away from the other. Assets will include things like your pension, any cash that you've got on hand, any investment ISAs that you have or investment trusts, any inheritance you've received, a house that you might have bought, basically anything that can be converted into cash. Now at this point, it's important to point out that there are two different types of asset. There is an illiquid and a liquid asset. So a liquid asset is something that you can very quickly access the cash on. So an investment ISA, for example, I can just sell all my shares off and then I've got that cash in my bank probably the same day. An illiquid asset is something that's a little bit more difficult to get the hands on the cash. So a house, for example, you got to sell that. Takes a while, takes a few months in order to be able to get the cash. So liquidity basically means how easy it is to get your hands on the cash. Now, some people include their car on the asset list. So this is up to you. It's your own personal choice. I don't, and I don't for two very good reasons. First of all, it's a depreciating asset. Whereas your house increases in value year on year, generally, a car that you buy generally will decrease year on year. So it's going to cost you money. And on top of that, it's quite an illiquid asset really at the end of the day, because even if I do sell it, I'm going to have to buy a new one because I need a car. So it depreciates in value, and it's an asset that really you can't get your hands on the cash. So that's exactly why I don't include it in my asset list. So once you've worked all that out, you need to add up all your liabilities. And liabilities, otherwise known as debt, are things like your credit card that you might have, a store card, any mortgage that you've got, a student loan, car finance, anything like that, that it's a debt basically. Now again, with student loan, I'm going to caveat this one. Some people don't include it in here, and I can understand why. Because taking out a student loan actually means that you're going to go to university. And more often than not, that means that you're going to improve yourself, earn more in the future. So actually, it's an investment into your future self. And yes, you have to pay it off, but you have to pay it off in a nominal amount. It's almost like a tax that comes out of your salary, really. So it's up to you, again, whether you want to include this in your calculation. So add up all your assets, take away your liabilities, and boom, there you are. That's your net worth. So I've got a few assets, starting with my investment portfolio. That's currently worth about £27,000, although every time I log on at the moment, it's gone down again. But obviously in the long term, what I'm planning is that's going to increase in value. I'm going to keep dripping into it, and the stock market is going to recover. It's just a blip at the moment. All right, I looked at my pension. I've got two private pensions with two previous companies that I work for, and they add up to a total of £76,000. One of the greatest things I ever did when I started working at 22 years old is I opted straight onto the pension scheme, and I opted straight onto it, and it was salary sacrifice, and it was matched. So I was putting, even though I wasn't earning that much, I was putting money away right away from the age I was 22 years old. I'm 38 years old now, so over the course of 16 years, that has amassed a pension pot of £76,000. Now, if I don't add another penny to that, by retirement age, it's going to be worth a couple of £100,000. So it's not too bad. If you haven't already, and you do work for a private company, please have a look at whether a pension might be the right thing for you. Right, next thing is I have a house, and according to Zoopla, they say they are relatively confident that my house is worth £380,000. So I moved into the house a couple of years ago. It has increased in value since then quite a bit, as all prices have in the UK. We're in a bit of a bubble, and prices of houses have increased significantly over the last couple of years. And in terms of cash, I've got about £10,000 in cash in the bank across a couple of different accounts. Cash in a bank basically means cash that I can go and I can withdraw immediately. So that gives me, across all of those assets, a grand total of £493,000. That sounds like a lot of money, and I hadn't even realised it was going to be that big. But we haven't taken into consideration those liabilities yet, have we? So for me, if you're in debt, I know what it's like. I spent a number of years in debt. From my early to mid 20s, for about 7 or 8 years, I had credit card debt. That was my problem. I had a whole load of credit card debt. It was about £10,000, £12,000, something like that. But at the time, I wasn't a very big earner, and it was horrible. It was hanging over me all the time. So it took me a number of years to clear that. And my experience of that was I never, ever, ever want to go in debt again with anyone. I don't want to be owing anyone any more money outside of my mortgage. So I'm happy to say now that I am completely debt-free from a credit card perspective. I have no store cards. I have no car loans. I always buy my cars in cash. So the only debt that I have is my mortgage. But by Christ, it's a big one. And I still have £245,000 to pay off on my mortgage. So when we work it out then, my assets column looks like 493,000. My liabilities column is 245,000, and that gives me a net worth of 248,000. However, as I said before, a lot of that is illiquid within my pension, within the value of my house. It's not really cash that I can get a hold of. On top of that, I'm not the only one that owns a house. I've got a wife, and she owns 50% of it, of course, as well. So in reality, it's nowhere near as good as it sounds. What I do have is £27,000 investment portfolio. I do have £10,000 in cash. So in reality, the way I look at it is my net worth is kind of really £37,000, because what I'm trying to do is get to a position where I have £500,000, that's my financial independence number, in liquid assets, in stuff that isn't my house, isn't my car, isn't stuff that I can't get a hold of, isn't my pension that I can't reach. My goal is £500,000 liquid assets. So at £37,000, I am just about 7.4% of the way. So I've got quite a bit of way to go, I'm afraid. And if in any way this video has inspired you to start investing, go and watch this.